Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B CBS Gossip 24 channel. Katie surrenders to Bill's wedding wish, big surprise follows. Katie Logan will surrender to Bill Spencer's wedding wish, so a big surprise will follow. After Liam Spencer and Hope Logan Spencer had an amazing wedding of their own, their reception got underway. Bill eventually took Katie aside for a moment alone and asked her to become his wife tonight. Of course, a marriage proposal is the last thing Katie was expecting. Katie is obviously feeling pretty overwhelmed, especially since Bill's pushing for their nuptials to happen right away. However, Katie may ultimately decide to trust her instincts here. Bill has proven himself to Katie, so she may decide she trusts him enough to remarry him on the spot. B&B's preview video for the week of December 15th to 19th certainly points in that direction. Bill and Katie can be seen still wearing their wedding attire as he offers her an incredible gift to celebrate. "This is my wedding present, your own fashion house," Bill says as he turns Katie's attention to a screen with models on the runway. Katie will be deeply moved over Bill's grand gesture and will lock lips with him moments later, so their wedding night will get even better. It sounds like Katie will indeed become Mrs. Bill Spencer again and be glad she did when Bill opens up a whole new career path. Katie will be on cloud nine both personally and professionally, so Bill will continue to make some positive moves for his relationship. Back with Liam and Hope, it'll still be their wedding night too. Hope and Liam may begin a little private celebration once they've finally got some time alone. Although spending the day with their loved ones was wonderful, Liam and Hope will no doubt look forward to enjoying their new marriage status behind closed doors. Unfortunately, it'll be the calm before the storm for Hope, who'll have to deal with some major work drama at Forrester Creations soon. Katie Logan's emotional surrender to Bill Spencer's sudden and overwhelming wedding wish becomes the emotional centerpiece of a night already overflowing with romance, nostalgia, shock and life-altering decisions, as the glow of Liam Spencer and Hope Logan Spencer's beautiful wedding still lingers in the air and sets the perfect backdrop for a bold move that only Bill Spencer would dare to make, because while most guests are still basking in the joy of Liam and Hope finally sealing their love. With vows, laughter and heartfelt celebration, Bill quietly pulls Katie aside, away from the music, the speeches and the champagne, and drops a bombshell that completely catches her off guard when he asks her to marry him that very night. A proposal so impulsive and audacious that it leaves Katie reeling as she struggles to process how quickly the moment has escalated from shared memories and lingering feelings to a life-changing decision that would bind them together once again as husband and wife. And although Katie is no stranger to Bill's larger-than-life gestures or his tendency to leap before looking, this particular request hits her on a deeply emotional level because it forces her to confront not only her lingering love for Bill but also the painful history they share, the betrayals they survived, the growth they've both undergone, and the fear that trusting him again could either lead to lasting happiness or devastating heartbreak. And yet, as overwhelmed as she feels in that moment, there is also something undeniably sincere in Bill's eyes, something that suggests this isn't just another reckless impulse but a genuine desire to prove that he has changed and that he wants a future with Katie built on respect, partnership, and shared dreams rather than ego and control, which is why Katie finds herself pausing instead of immediately shutting him down, listening instead of walking away, and weighing her instincts against her fears as she remembers how far Bill has come and how consistently he has shown up for her lately, supporting her emotionally, respecting her boundaries and demonstrating a level of maturity that once seemed impossible for him. And this internal conflict ultimately leads Katie to a place of cautious hope where she decides that perhaps trusting her heart, rather than her doubts, might finally lead her to the happiness she has long deserved, a decision that is subtly reinforced by the preview footage for the week of December 15th to 19th, which teases that Katie does indeed say yes and becomes Mrs. Bill Spencer again, as evidenced by the fact that both she and Bill are still dressed in their wedding attire when he surprises her with an extravagant and deeply personal gift meant to symbolize not just his love but his belief in her talent, ambition and independence. Because when Bill turns Katie's attention to a screen showing models strutting down a runway and declares, "This is my wedding present, your own fashion house," the gesture transcends material excess and becomes a powerful affirmation of Katie's worth, her creative vision, and her potential beyond being simply Bill Spencer's wife. And the impact of this moment is immediate and profound as Katie is visibly moved by the realization that Bill isn't trying to define her or overshadow her but instead wants to elevate her and give her the professional platform she has always deserved, which in turn melts away her remaining reservations and leads her to lock lips with him in a moment charged with passion, gratitude, and renewed trust, signaling that their wedding night is only just beginning and that this reunion is rooted in mutual respect and shared excitement for the future. A future where Katie is soaring both personally and professionally, basking in the joy of rediscovered love while stepping into a bold new career path that promises fulfillment, independence, and creative expression, all made possible by Bill's willingness to invest in her dreams rather than control them, marking a significant evolution in their relationship and positioning Bill as a man determined to make positive, lasting changes for the woman he loves, while elsewhere, the newlyweds Liam and Hope are also savoring the magic of their own wedding night, finally finding a quiet moment alone after a day spent surrounded by family, friends, and emotional milestones. And as much as they cherish the memories of celebrating with their loved ones, there is an undeniable intimacy in the privacy they now share as husband and wife, a chance to reflect on their journey, reaffirm their commitment, and enjoy the simple joy of being together without interruptions. Laughter softening into whispers as they begin a private celebration that marks the start of their married life, unaware that this moment of bliss represents the calm before the storm for Hope, who is soon destined to face intense professional turmoil at Forrester Creations, where looming work drama threatens to disrupt the happiness she has worked so hard to build, creating a stark contrast between the romantic triumphs of the present and the challenges that lie ahead. And in this way, the night becomes a tapestry of love stories unfolding simultaneously, with Katie and Bill's impulsive yet heartfelt remarriage standing as a testament to second chances and personal growth, Liam and Hope's union symbolizing stability and devotion, and the undercurrent of impending conflict serving as a reminder that in the world of bold and the beautiful, joy and chaos are never far apart, making Katie's decision to surrender to Bill's wedding wish not just a romantic leap of faith but a defining moment that reshapes her future, redefines Bill's character arc, and sets the stage for dramatic developments that will ripple through every corner of their interconnected lives. As the night stretches deeper into its glittering afterglow, the ripple effects of Katie's spontaneous decision to remarry Bill Spencer begin to quietly but unmistakably spread through everyone gathered under the same roof. Because in a world as interconnected as theirs, no major life choice ever exists in isolation, and while Katie finds herself wrapped in Bill's arms, still trying to reconcile the surreal reality of becoming Mrs. Bill Spencer again with the intoxicating promise of a fresh start, she also feels a profound sense of emotional release as though years of guarded restraint have finally given way to a cautious but exhilarating surrender to happiness. And this surrender does not come from weakness or naivete but from a hard-earned belief that both she and Bill have been tempered by past mistakes, heartbreaks, and painful lessons that now allow them to meet each other as equals rather than adversaries. Because Bill, for all his bravado and history of manipulation, stands before her stripped of pretense, visibly humbled by the gravity of the moment and deeply aware that this second chance is not a guarantee but a privilege he must continue to earn. Which is why his wedding gift resonates so deeply with Katie, not simply as a grand gesture but as tangible proof that he sees her not just as the woman he loves but as a visionary with her own identity, ambitions, and creative fire. And as she gazes at the models on the runway and imagines her name attached to a fashion house that reflects her sensibilities, her values, and her strength, she feels something awaken inside her that goes far beyond romance, a renewed sense of purpose that fills her with confidence and excitement, making her realize that this marriage is not about returning to the past but about forging something entirely new, something built on mutual empowerment rather than compromise. And this realization allows her to meet Bill's gaze with certainty instead of doubt, assuring him, without words, that she is all in, even as she silently promises herself that she will never again shrink or lose herself for love. A promise that Bill seems to intuitively understand as he holds her closer, his demeanor softer than ever, his usual swagger replaced by reverence and gratitude, knowing that Katie's trust is the most valuable thing he has ever been given and the easiest thing to lose if he fails her again, which is why he commits in that moment not just to being her husband but to being her partner, her champion, and her ally in every sense of the word, even as the party around them gradually winds down and the significance of what they've done begins to settle in. because tomorrow will bring questions, raised eyebrows, and inevitable scrutiny from friends, family, and rivals alike, all eager to weigh in on whether this impulsive union is a fairy tale reunion or a disaster waiting to happen. And yet, for now, Katie allows herself to exist fully in the joy of the present, choosing faith over fear and hope over hesitation, while elsewhere in the sprawling celebration space, whispers begin to circulate as guests notice Bill and Katie's matching wedding attire and unmistakable chemistry, sparking speculation and surprise that will undoubtedly explode into full-blown reactions once the truth becomes known. Reactions that range from cautious optimism to outright skepticism depending on the observer's history with the notoriously volatile couple, because some will remember the passion that once defined Bill and Katie as soulmates, while others will recall the betrayals and power struggles that tore them apart. And it is this duality that makes their remarriage so compelling, so risky, and so emotionally charged, setting the stage for future conflicts that will test whether love truly can conquer deeply ingrained patterns and old wounds, especially in a world where temptation, ambition, and secrets are never far away. Meanwhile, Liam and Hope, blissfully unaware of the full extent of the drama unfolding beyond their private sanctuary, revel in the quiet intimacy of their wedding night, savoring the simple pleasure of being alone together after a day that felt both magical and overwhelming. Because while their love story has always been marked by trials and misunderstandings, this moment feels grounding and real, a reminder of why they continue to choose each other despite the chaos that so often surrounds them. And as they talk softly, laugh about small details from the ceremony, and reflect on how far they've come, there is an undercurrent of contentment that settles over them, a shared belief that this time, their marriage will be stronger, steadier, and more resilient than before. Yet even in this cocoon of happiness, subtle cracks begin to form because Hope's mind, though relaxed, cannot fully quiet the nagging awareness that Forrester Creations looms large on the horizon, a place where creativity and competition collide and where her role has never been free from scrutiny or pressure. And while she pushes those thoughts aside for now, choosing to focus on Liam and the promise of their future, fate has a way of accelerating unresolved tensions, and it won't be long before professional challenges intrude upon their domestic bliss, forcing Hope to juggle her identity as a newlywed with the demands of a high-stakes fashion empire where alliances shift quickly and loyalty is often tested. And this looming storm stands in stark contrast to the serenity of the moment, foreshadowing the emotional strain that will soon test both her confidence and her marriage. Even as Liam, ever attentive, senses that beneath Hope's smile lies a hint of worry, a reminder that happiness in their world is rarely uncomplicated, and that even the most joyful milestones are often accompanied by difficult choices and unforeseen consequences. Back on Katie and Bill's side of the story, the significance of their remarriage continues to deepen as they retreat from the remaining festivities and step into a quieter space where they can finally breathe, laugh, and marvel at the improbability of the path that led them here, because neither of them could have predicted that Liam and Hope's wedding would serve as the catalyst for their own unexpected reunion. And as they reflect on that irony, there is a shared understanding that life has a strange way of circling back, offering second chances not as guarantees but as invitations to do better, to love more consciously, and to heal what was once broken. And it is in this reflective mood that Katie begins to voice her hopes and boundaries, speaking candidly about what she needs moving forward, not just emotionally but professionally, and Bill listens in a way he never quite managed to before, absorbing her words with seriousness rather than defensiveness, recognizing that this marriage will only succeed if he continues to prioritize communication, transparency, and respect, and this mutual honesty becomes the quiet foundation upon which their renewed commitment rests, even as the enormity of Bill's wedding gift raises questions about how their professional lives will intersect now that Katie has her own fashion house backed by Spencer resources, because while the opportunity is thrilling, it also carries the potential for complications, power dynamics, and external pressures that could strain their relationship if not carefully navigated. And Katie, ever perceptive, acknowledges this complexity, making it clear that she intends to run her fashion house with autonomy and integrity, a stance Bill supports wholeheartedly, at least for now, even as the wheels of ambition and influence begin to turn in the background, hinting at future storylines where success may come at a personal cost, and where Katie will be forced to assert her independence in ways that test both her confidence and Bill's ability to truly let go of control. As dawn inches closer and the night's events settle into memory, the emotional landscape of everyone involved begins to shift, because weddings have a way of crystallizing truths that can no longer be ignored. And for Katie, this truth is that she is done living cautiously in the shadows of what once hurt her, choosing instead to step boldly into a future that honors both love and self-respect. While for Bill, the truth is that redemption is not a single grand gesture but a series of consistent, thoughtful actions that must be renewed daily. And for Liam and Hope, the truth is that marriage does not mark the end of challenges but the beginning of facing them together with renewed commitment, even as external forces threaten to disrupt their harmony. And it is this convergence of personal growth, romantic risk, and looming conflict that gives the night its enduring significance, transforming it from a celebration of love into a turning point that reshapes relationships, ambitions, and power dynamics across the board. Because in the world they inhabit, love is never static, success is never simple, and happiness is always hard-won. And as the sun rises on the aftermath of the weddings, it becomes clear that while Katie's surrender to Bill's wedding wish may have been impulsive, it is also profoundly intentional, a declaration that she is ready to claim joy on her own terms, even if it means braving uncertainty, criticism, and the possibility of disappointment. And this willingness to risk vulnerability becomes the emotional heartbeat of the story moving forward, promising a future rich with passion, conflict, triumph, and transformation, where every character must confront who they are, what they want, and how far they are willing to go to protect the love and dreams they have chosen to embrace. As the new day fully breaks and the soft golden light of morning filters through the windows, the magnitude of the previous night's choices begins to settle into something heavier and more complex. Because while champagne-fueled joy and romantic spontaneity can make anything feel possible in the moment, daylight has a way of demanding accountability, reflection, and clarity. And for Katie Logan Spencer, waking up as Bill Spencer's wife once again is both exhilarating and sobering, a collision of hope and realism that she greets not with regret but with resolve. Because even as doubts whisper at the edges of her mind, she reminds herself that this decision was not made blindly or out of nostalgia but out of a deep recognition of growth, her own as much as Bill's. And that recognition steels her against the inevitable reactions that will follow once the world catches up to what they've done. Reactions she knows will be swift and intense, especially within a family and social circle. Where history is long, memories are sharp, and opinions are rarely held back. And sure enough, it doesn't take long for the news to spread, first through hushed conversations among staff and guests still lingering from the wedding, then through hurried phone calls and stunned text messages, until the reality of Bill and Katie's remarriage becomes the dominant topic of conversation, eclipsing even Liam and Hope's nuptials in its sheer shock value. Because while Liam and Hope's love story is familiar and reassuring, Bill and Katie's reunion feels volatile, dramatic, and fraught with unanswered questions, prompting reactions that range from cautious congratulations to outright disbelief. And yet Katie remains surprisingly calm in the face of it all, grounded by the clarity she gained the night before and buoyed by the sense that she is finally choosing herself alongside love rather than sacrificing one for the other, a balance she has fought hard to achieve. And Bill, for his part, seems acutely aware that this calm is fragile and must be protected through actions rather than words, which is why he moves through the morning with an uncharacteristic attentiveness, checking in with Katie repeatedly, asking how she feels, listening without interrupting, and resisting the urge to dominate the narrative as he so often has in the past, because somewhere deep down, he understands that this marriage will not survive if he falls back into old patterns, and that understanding manifests in small but meaningful ways, from deferring decisions to encouraging Katie to take the lead in conversations about their future, gestures that do not go unnoticed and that quietly reinforce Katie's belief that this time, things truly can be different. At the same time, the professional implications of Bill's wedding gift begin to crystallize with startling speed, because the announcement of Katie's fashion house sends ripples through the industry almost immediately, igniting curiosity, excitement, and skepticism in equal measure, as insiders speculate about whether this venture will be a genuine creative endeavor or merely another extension of Spencer influence. And Katie, ever mindful of perception, recognizes that she must establish credibility quickly and decisively if she hopes to succeed on her own terms, which is why she throws herself into planning mode with focused intensity, outlining her vision, assembling a team she trusts, and setting clear boundaries about Bill's involvement, boundaries Bill publicly supports even as some observers question whether he can truly remain hands-off. And this tension between independence and partnership becomes one of the defining challenges of their renewed relationship. Because, while Bill's resources and connections offer undeniable advantages, they also threaten to blur the lines Katie has worked so hard to draw, forcing her to constantly assert her autonomy in subtle and not-so-subtle ways, a dynamic that tests both her confidence and Bill's patience, especially when obstacles arise and his instinct is to bulldoze them into submission. And it is in these moments that their marriage faces its first real tests, moments where Bill must choose restraint over control and Katie must decide when to accept support without surrendering authority, a delicate dance that neither of them fully masters right away, leading to friction that simmers beneath the surface even as they present a united front to the outside world. Meanwhile, within the Forrester orbit, the fallout from the weddings begins to intersect with long-simmering professional rivalries and unresolved tensions, particularly for Hope, whose newlywed glow is quickly dimmed by mounting pressures at work, as Forrester Creations becomes a battleground of clashing visions, shifting alliances, and power plays that leave her feeling increasingly isolated and scrutinized. And although Liam remains a steady source of support, offering reassurance and encouragement as she navigates these challenges, the strain inevitably begins to seep into their marriage. Because Hope's struggle is not just about external opposition but about an internal crisis of confidence, a fear that her professional identity is being overshadowed or undermined at the very moment she hoped marriage would bring stability. And this fear is exacerbated by the knowledge that Katie's sudden ascent with her own fashion house has altered the competitive landscape in ways that are both inspiring and intimidating, prompting Hope to question her own path and wonder whether she, too, must make bold, risky moves to protect her creative voice. Questions that lead to difficult conversations with Liam about priorities, ambition, and the sacrifices marriage sometimes demands. Conversations that reveal subtle differences in how they envision their future and force them to confront the reality that love alone does not automatically align dreams, especially when those dreams are shaped by powerful family legacies and relentless public scrutiny. As these parallel storylines unfold, the emotional stakes continue to rise, because each character finds themselves standing at a crossroads shaped by the choices made on that transformative night. And for Katie, the challenge lies in sustaining the optimism she felt in the glow of Bill's grand gesture while confronting the everyday realities of rebuilding trust, managing expectations and proving, to herself most of all, that she can thrive without losing her sense of self. And this challenge becomes particularly acute when old wounds resurface, triggered by offhand comments, media speculation, or well-meaning but intrusive family members who cannot help but remind her of past pain. Moments that test her resolve and force her to reaffirm why she chose this path. And yet, rather than retreating into defensiveness, Katie meets these challenges with a newfound assertiveness, openly acknowledging the risks while refusing to be defined by them, a stance that earns her respect even from skeptics and gradually shifts the narrative surrounding her remarriage from reckless to courageous. While Bill, watching this transformation, finds himself both humbled and inspired, realizing that loving Katie now means standing beside a woman who is stronger and more self-assured than ever before, and that his role is not to lead or rescue but to support and adapt, a realization that represents perhaps the most profound growth he has ever experienced, even as it pushes him out of his comfort zone and forces him to confront insecurities he has long masked with power and bravado.